We don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD, Annabelle, and Melissa.
Hey, and welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my co-host Melissa, and today I'm super thrilled. We have a real-life American hero, the one and only Mr. Aaron Hale. We love him for many, many reasons. One, he served our country. Two, he's an entrepreneur and businessman. And three, anybody that loves real estate's good in my book. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on today.
You're really welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Aaron, usually the way this goes is we tell you how much we love you, and then we let you introduce yourself to our audience. And we'd really like you to share your story and introduce yourself to some of the people that maybe don't know who you are and haven't heard your story before.
Absolutely. It is a very strange and windy, it just takes so many weird turns, this story. But I joined the Navy after doing just a horrible job of my college career. Starting out, I was talented enough not to have to do anything, not to really try very hard. So I could get B's and C's just by skating along, and that of course catches up with you when you get to college. So after failing out of just about everything, if they gave negative GPAs, I had it. And if I gained my freshman 50 and decided it was time to get out. So I needed to find some direction. I needed to find some discipline, some goals, direction. And the military was where it was at. And I love to cook. So I joined the Navy first, and I joined as a Navy cook. It was terrific. I spent 8 years, worked my way up to petty officer and head chef of the admirals galley. I was cooking for the commander of the 6th Fleet in Gaeta, Italy for a few years. It was fantastic. Got to hang up my uniform about 2 in-the-afternoon, go become an Italian. For 4 years, I was in Italy, just living the good life. But about 2004, I'd spent 4 years over there, and we were in 2 wars, and we'd spent like 56 days straight out at sea in the Mediterranean, just running operations. And I was watching the war on CNN, and it was just something calling to me. I knew I needed to do something more. I loved my time in the service. I loved my time in the Navy. I loved what it had given me, that purpose and direction, its core values, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to be in the fight. So I volunteered to become an individual augmentee, and I deployed to Afghanistan as a Navy cook. And I spent a year in Afghanistan running an army chow hall. Instead of cooking for the admiral and 35 of his top brass, I was cooking for 500, 600, 700 NATO troops. Ironically, this was in 2006, 2007. Ironically, there were about 3 platoons of Italian special forces. So all that lingo I learned in Italy, I was speaking in Afghanistan. It was pretty cool.
That is
cool. That's when I met some EOD technicians, explosive ordnance disposal, the military's bomb squad, and just everything about it turned me on. I learned about the technical aspect of the job, the tight-knit brotherhood, and of course, the fact that we were first responders. The EOD technicians were the ones who saved lives on the battlefield. So I put in a request. Of course, the Navy liked my cooking too much and said no. I don't know. I don't know. We were undermanned, so they weren't going to promote me, and they weren't going to let me switch over to another rate. Anyways, I let my contract expire, and I went over to the Army recruiter, handed him my service record, and they welcomed me in. I got to keep my rank. So I went from petty officer to sergeant, learned how to become an EOD technician, and I was soon deployed to Iraq. And then in 2011, I went back to Afghanistan, this time as an EOD team leader. And about 8 months into a 12-month rotation, I was injured. The blast hit me probably in the if anywhere in my body, the best part, the densest part, right in my head. The blast took my eyes, cracked my skull. I was leaking spinal fluid right out of my nose, but I'd maintained my consciousness. So I made it to the medevac chopper within 48 hours. I was a Walter Reed, and I was learning how to be a blind person. So it was soon thereafter I learned that I would never get my sight back. And there in the hospital room, I decided that if I was going to be blind for the rest of my life, I was going to be the best damn blind guy I could be. My life didn't belong to just me. I was still a soldier, still a father, son, brother, still a husband. And I had all these hats to wear. I had this responsibility, and I was responsible to others. So it was my ethical imperative. It was my duty to learn how to do this and not to let it defeat me. So, still in the hospital, I learned how to use accessible technology, talking phones and computers, and of course, learn how to use the cane and navigate in the dark. I started doing Google search for blind plus outside, blind plus this, blind plus that, and finding all these other people that have figured it out, and not only were living a full life, they were doing some amazing things. There was a guy named Eric Weinmeyer who climbed Mount Everest, the first blind person to ever climb Mount Everest. I found him, and I went mountain climbing with him. We climbed an 18,000-foot peak in the Peruvian Andes with an all-wounded veteran team in 2013. I found a guy named Lonnie Bedwell, another Navy guy, blind also, who's the first blind person to kayak the entire Grand Canyon. I went kayaking with him in Montana. And I just, by it's like everything else, the military life in general, blindness, disabilities, your day-to-day life, it's 90% a head game. Once you change your mind, once you change your perspective, everything becomes possible or impossible, depending on how you look at something. What's the saying? Whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right.
Right.
So I started believing not that my blindness limited me, just started believing that I needed to find a new way. And I did. I started running marathons. I ran my first 100-mile ultra marathon just this past July. And, I found the woman of my dreams. I was in 2015. I've done all these. I was thriving. I was doing great. I was on top of all these mountains, and I was whitewater kayaking, and I just had this incredible first date that lasted a week with an old friend, and that those cracks in my skull that I thought had been patched up either reopened or something. But almost 4 years after the bomb blast, the damages were still having their effect because I'd contracted bacterial meningitis. The path out where there was leaking spinal fluid was also a path in for the bug. And I was back in the hospital 2 weeks before heading to Kilimanjaro. and it almost killed me. I survived, but the um, either the heavy doses of antibiotics or um, the bacteria itself took what was left of my hearing and left me completely blind, to go with totally deaf. So I'm totally deaf, totally blind, and the doctor says, you know, you're going to be. He's breaking the news to me. He says you're going to lose your hearing, and of course I couldn't help myself. I said, "What? No, really, what?" Then of course, I don't know. I can't take anything seriously, even the most serious of circumstances. I tell I tell the doc. I ask him. I said, "So what you're telling me is I'm never going to have to pay attention ever again? I'm never going to have to pretend to pay attention ever again?" Anyways, it wasn't all jokes. For the next 6 months, while I was awaiting the bug, the virus, the bacteria to the infection to clear, there was a possibility for me uh, to get my hearing, at least some of it back with a cochlear implant. But there would be one surgery, then the other surgery, and we have to wait for one to heal, and then they'd have to get tuned in. It was over a 6 month process that and during that time, I would be completely trapped in my body. End of my, my whole world was stopped at the ends of my fingertips, and it was the most lonely, frustrating time. And I did what anybody in my situation would have done: started a chocolate company. It was the holidays were coming up, and I wanted to throw this huge feast, and just I fell back on what I knew and I loved. I started cooking, and I started making all this fudge. So much fudge. My girlfriend at the time, my wife now, started sneaking it out the front door. I say sneaking, like you got to be real stealthy around a blind deaf guy. But uh, people started coming back and asking if they could buy some of this, and of course the capitalist in me was like, well, of course you can. That's how Extraordinary Delights was born, eodfudge.com. And we started selling it first out of the home kitchen. Then we moved into a much larger facility, and we started the website, and the proceeds, the profits, the revenue generated from making fudge allowed us the freedom to start deciding what we were going to invest in. And real estate was just one of those things that I'd always been interested in. Never thought that I could do it, but of course, I started with bigger pockets because that's like the training wheels for every real estate investor.
Yep.
And I just started asking all these questions. You know how everybody does it. It's like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much information, so many different ways you can invest. And for a blind deaf guy, it kind of narrows that field. Of course, like I said, everything is possible. You just got to find new ways. So our first foray in real estate investing, I did it the most difficult way imaginable. We went out of state. I bought it online auction. The place was built in 1930. It ended up being so full of rotten wood that we practically had to rebuild it from the inside out. I'm pretty sure the old wallpaper was holding that roof up. There was like this cistern in the basement. I mean, everything. But thankfully, I was reading David Green's out of state investing book and his Core Four, and we first started in a place I knew was my hometown of Akron, Ohio, and my family was still there. My mom had done a couple flips. Her boyfriend's actually a general contractor. They know a great real estate agent. I'd already had a pre-built team ready to go, and it helped a ton because we needed it. the contractor was just a magician in that house. Of course, for the first investment, botched all of the estimates, ARV, rental rates, all that. But thank goodness, I underestimated everything, which was great. I bought this thing at 64.8. We were we budgeted the renovation for $50,000, ended up doubling that. So we put about 165,000 into this. We'd thought that that was actually our ARV. It was 165. So instead of 70% rule, we went right to 100. However, when we went to refinance, our appraisal came back at 215,000.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Very nice.
I'll take that.
Yeah, and the rent, which we were estimating at $1,250, we actually got a nice doctor lawyer couple in there. In the hospital is about 3 minutes away, and one of my high school buddies is one of the head of surgery in there, and he hooked us up with one of the residents, and we're renting it for 15.
Nice.
So that was it was like a trial by fire. We ran the gauntlet and we came out on the other side pretty well. In fact, we did a cash out only of 115. We left a little equity in it, but it was enough for us to do the down payments on 2 more properties. This time we're a little more conservative. We didn't do it at auction. We did it right off at the MLS. But we've got one rehab right now going. It's a single family that we're turning into long-term or extended stay for traveling nurses. We're going to furnish it. It's almost ready to go. And we just purchased one duplex, and we're under contract for a second duplex.
Awesome.
Wow. And those are in Ohio, all of that? You're still doing out of state?
We did all this out of state. Yeah, we live in Florida, just down the road from you guys, and all of this was done in Ohio.
One of the things that I thought when I first, being in the Air Force and moving around from duty station to duty station, what I thought was a good idea was to buy a new property at every place that you go. But in practice, what I found was buying properties is pretty easy, but finding a good team is hard. And if you're, depending on how fast you move around, it's really hard to build a new team with real meaningful relationships in each market that you go. And so what I started out doing was buying them everywhere. And what I realized after a few mistakes was it's better to stick with the place where you have that good team, which it sounds like you do, which, I mean, thousands and thousands of investors all over the country are jealous of a team that's in place that's actually going to do what they say they're going to do. And you said your contractor's a magician. I wonder if he'd ever consider moving to Panama City, because we could use him there, and so I guess what I'm getting at is what's the difference between investing out of state or right next door? If you have a good team, you're doing pretty much the same thing. It doesn't matter where you're at. And that's pretty awesome that you built those relationships or had those relationships and are able to operate securely.
Half an hour, it's all the same to me because I can't drive. So, plus I can't, even going to visit this house, I can't even see it. So literally does not matter if I step foot into this place. So I have good people I trust, people who know my standards and what we're expecting and what we're aiming for, and would trust them to do what we need them to do. And of course, we place systems in there for checks.
Right. Well, can you tell us a little bit about what that real estate team looks like? You said you had your contractor, your real estate agent, and some family members, boots on the ground. Do you have anybody else that you would consider on your team, or that you think is important to have on your team?
Of course, we've got a great attorney who just looks at all the contracts and makes sure the LLCs are properly written and all that. And we've got a terrific attorney in Columbus, or not attorney, accountant. But other than that, you hit the major ones. My mom is our property slash project manager. We've got the contractor. We've got a couple of terrific agents, but one in particular is just a rock star. And he's got the MLS feed dialed in pretty well, where we want to look and what we're looking for.
Aaron, so you just stick to MLS purchases? Do you ever look for any off market or have any wholesalers there that help?
No, 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 no. We also have a few wholesalers sending us stuff, but unfortunately, right now, pickings are slim.
Mhm.
You get those properties that are so far gone that the renovation cost outweighs the after renovation value, or you're in a bidding war.
Mm.
So we're still working on making buddies. I'm going to send a couple bottles of whiskey or something to a few of these wholesalers. Like, hey, come on, just call me first. But
Yeah.
other than that, now what we're doing is we're starting to shift focus towards the commercial space, and we're instead of wholesalers. But however, we're still trying to find all of the off market opportunities we can. We're starting to shift towards contacting brokers, making relationships with them, and starting to go 5+ units.
Mhm.
Right. I definitely think that there's a good place for that in every real estate business. I know, speaking from a wholesaler standpoint, the guys we call first are the ones that will answer their phone when we have a property, right? And those are the ones that we call first. I know that Ohio's a pretty popular place. We got a lot of friends up there that are doing those kind of things. And I think, from what we've noticed in our circles, that the inventory is slim in a lot of places right now. People are either uncertain about selling because they don't know, can they get into a new house right now with the pandemic and everything going on, and then the investors are all fighting over the same properties. It's like piranhas in a fish tank, fighting over the same properties, which is driving those prices up. Which is really great if you have the property and you're the wholesaler with it under contract. It's really bad if you're the investor trying to get the flip.
Well, the truth is that you can find deals in any market. And I know everybody says that, and almost everybody, I'm included, roll my fake eyes, because it's much more difficult to find it in up markets. But we found a couple great deals just by paying attention to what you're looking at on the MLS, what's listed. And the our first duplex, it was listed on the MLS. It looked like a great find and a great price. We didn't know what was wrong with it, and we found out that the owner had some family medical emergency, needed to get it offloaded very quickly, and probably could have asked for quite a bit more, but just wanted to offload it. So we put in an offer for asking. It was accepted, and this was actually a terrifying moment when the lender's appraiser came through, and it was appraised at $25,000 less than we'd offered. So we would have to come up with a difference if we wanted to buy it, and we weren't prepared to do that with this one. So we just said, we asked our agent, can you just see if the seller will, ask the listing agent if the seller will work with us. He came back in like 2 hours and said he'll drop it $25,000.
Done.
Mhm.
So
Love that.
it's that opportunity in hard work. Meet and you find good luck. That's what it is. It's just diligence, and patience.
Yeah, I can't agree with that more. Sometimes the safest thing to do is not pull the trigger on that one that looks like it might be a good deal, and not fudging your numbers. I think it's really interesting, your origin story in real estate in regards to starting with bigger pockets, reading the books, going like that's Melissa's story, that's my story, that's I don't know if it's the certain kind of people that find bigger pockets or if bigger pockets is just that wide casting net. But it seems like a lot of the people, almost everybody that I know that's in it, is started with Rich Dad Poor Dad and then bigger pockets, and it's amazing how often that theme runs true. Speaking of those kind of things, do you have any other resources that you recommend to other people, or that have helped you out in your quest for knowledge?
I thought I was going to be the first one to mention Rich Dad Poor Dad, but
Yeah, right.
oh, you mentioned the cliche first. But it's true. No, yeah, I think I read that the first year it was out and didn't do anything with it. I thought it was a fantastic book and didn't do anything for the next 12 years.
Wow.
But as far as other resources, absolutely. Podcasts, books. From Military to Millionaire, of course, is an excellent resource. I'm in the War Room Mastermind, and I think that's mastermind meetups. Those kind of things are invaluable. It's like throwing, when you put the tips of the 5, 6 lit matches together and you get a much larger flame. That's what these mastermind or meetups are like. You get people being accountable to each other and holding each other accountable, and you just bounce all these other ideas off each other. Not to mention, that's where all these partnerships and JVs um, and, and financing, all this kind of stuff comes together, and deals happen. So I absolutely recommend finding these resources. I listen to Active Duty Passive Income, Jake and Gino, and of course the Real Estate Jam. Because I'm an avid runner, I spend hours on the treadmill. And I don't watch TV, of course. So I listen to podcasts and I read, I listen to audiobooks for hours. That's how I do my learning.
Yeah, that's great. I can't
That,
agree with you more there.
that's a common thread for sure with everybody that's in the real estate world, I think, for sure. We're all into education.
Yeah, self-improvement.
Yes.
How much do you think that being in the military helped prepare you, one, for the challenges that you face day to day, but also for the challenges in real estate and in business and being able to lead people and that kind of stuff?
In so many more ways than I think I could tell you in one sitting. For one, it was discipline, just knuckle down and get the job done. Two, it was a perspective of no matter what, quit isn't an option. No matter what, the mission has to go on. So failure is not in the vernacular. It's you come to challenges, obstacles, and opportunities. So every difficulty in front of you is an opportunity. Maybe you have new equipment, foreign equipment. You meet brand new service members you've never worked with before, and you have to build a team, and all those things. It gives you this resilience, and I consider my time in the military absolutely invaluable and a huge asset. I think in the future, I would more often than not, if given my choice, I would choose a veteran over anyone else, just given their experience, their background, and what they've gone through.
Yeah, I think that's great. If you were talking, because being in military and for me and Annabelle, a lot of our audience comes from our friend group, and we're speaking to military veterans through this podcast. If you were going to give some advice to some of these younger guys who were thinking about how to go forth and prosper, if you had a chance to speak directly to them, what would you tell them about real estate life? What kind of advice can you offer that younger generation?
Well, in general, I would say know where your money's going. Learn about you get the financial literacy you need early. I did not. I was one of those young seamen who, as soon as I got paid, would be out at the bars, buying the rounds, spending all my dough, and barely making it to the next paycheck. I have no idea how I ever made my rent checks once I moved off the ship or made, out of the barracks. But if you know your numbers, that's pay yourself first. Read, of course, the richest man in Babylon is perfect for that, and start paying yourself, start investing early. Real estate is an excellent vehicle for investing for your future security, future comfort, but it's not the only investment vehicle. But what you should be doing absolutely is investing.
Yeah, that's again great advice. Now we want to be respectful of your time. We appreciate you coming on. Can you tell people how they can find you and where we can get to know you a little bit more, or if they wanted to buy some delicious fudge, where do you think you should send them? Especially, Christmas is right around the corner.
Absolutely. We can be found. You can read more about the story, and there's a couple videos at eodfudge.com. And of course, you can follow us at Facebook, Instagram, and we've actually grown a pretty good following on TikTok lately, pretty recently. I do just about a daily video on kitchen hacks and whatnot, and that's at EOD Confections.
Awesome. That's great. Aaron, before we let you go, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us or our audience today?
Well, I'd like to thank you for inviting me on, of course, and to your audience and to the real estate investors community in general for all the help I've gotten, both my wife and I, because it has been difficult. I don't complain ever about my situation. I have a pretty good outlook. That doesn't mean that anybody's situation that the help isn't called for, and is very welcome. And I'm extremely grateful for how welcoming the real estate field is in general. So to all of you investors out there, thank you.
That's awesome. And we thank you definitely for coming on the show. We thank you for your service. We appreciate the sacrifices that you made for our country. And if there's anything that we can do at the Real Estate Jam to help you out in your real estate investing journey, as soon as we find some good properties, we'll send them your way for sure. But if there's anything else we can do to help you out, please don't hesitate to reach out.
You got it.
Aaron.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, check out our website, shorefrontrestorations.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Shorefront Restorations. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at info@shorefrontrestorations.com. See you next episode.